Buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches, buongiorno, buonasera. Dzień dobry, dobry wieczór, i jak jela, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you may be. J. Slater case. And just going through a few old reports, but one or two things popping out that really need to be mentioned, and quite startling. One or two things that I didn't know before. And if I didn't know it, maybe you didn't know it. So I'm going to go to the Daily Mail, May 22nd of 2025. So it's Inquest Part 1 time. And it is, first of all, it is the timeline that I want to put out there and think about again. Because we do have this half an hour where it seems Jay is going nowhere, doing nothing, by the side of the road, and I'll explain. In the testimony from the inquest, we hear, and this is the Daily Mail reporting it, that at 8:13 a.m., Mr. Slater sent a WhatsApp message which could not be recovered, which gave his location 1.5 kilometers from the Airbnb, approximately 26 minutes walk away. So 1.5 kilometers walk away from the Airbnb, 26 minutes walk away. That is basically where his phone died when Lucy and Jay had that 20-second call when Jay's phone died. It's there. He's there at 8:13. And yeah, I've done that walk. That is about right. If you remember, I said with the uphill bit, I couldn't match Jay's pace. But 8:13 a.m., after 26 minutes of walking, Jay's at the point where his phone died. But his phone died at 8:51. So if at 8:13 and at 8:51 he's in the same place, that's 37 minutes of just being there, not walking towards the sea with any great determination. And this is what's odd about it, because we've been told from Ophelia that he was walking with purpose at quite a speed along that road, up that road. But then all of a sudden at 8:13 he stopped. He's, I guess, gone off the road a little bit, or maybe just be sitting by the side of the road. I don't think the location is very precise up in the mountains when you're going by a phone signal. He stops, no longer in a hurry. Not no longer in a hurry, not just no longer in a hurry, but decides to go nowhere for 37 minutes. Just making all his calls, video calls, texting, what have you, mountains in the background, but not going anywhere. Or did he go somewhere? 37 minutes. Is that time enough for Jay to go walking down the track, which then becomes a path, but is walkable? Did he go all the way down there, turn back, and go all the way back to the road? Yeah, 37 minutes. There's time for that. Yeah. But it's one or the other. It's either he stayed there for 37 minutes doing nothing but chatting on the phone, or he walked somewhere and then came back. It just seems odd to me that if you stayed there for 37 minutes and your phone died, you'd then decide to go walking down the ravine through cacti and all the rest of it to the sea. But equally, if you've already gone down the path and seen that it ends, it just doesn't continue, it's odd that you would turn back to the road, have your last phone call, phone dies, and then you say, I'll try that again. I'll try that again. I'll go down that path and head towards the sea. None of it adds up to me. But that's, as far as the timings goes, 37 minutes of missing time. What does he do in that 37 minutes at his last location? I mean, hide, maybe. Maybe the fear is that someone is going to drive by and see him. Maybe just hide. We don't know. All right. On a different matter, I want to go back to the Josh Forshaw testimony. This character, Josh Forshaw, is really fascinating. Just the whole idea of meeting someone in line for a flight. When you're going on holiday, you meet someone in line, lining up to check in, and you become kind of instant friends, and within hours you're sharing, illicit narco substances with them, and FaceTiming each other, and it does seem a bit odd. But another oddity to me, is the interaction between Coroner Adderley and Josh Forshaw. I always thought when Josh Forshaw described the pic that Jay sent him with the knives down the waistband in case it kicks off, I always assumed that that was taken inside the Airbnb. Because part of our conundrum was, there's no picture, there's nothing of Jay inside the Airbnb. And what seemed to contradict it, was Josh Forshaw's testimony. Well, he sent me a pic. He sent me a picture of him with those knives down his waistband. But that wasn't in the Airbnb, according to the Mail. That was outside too. So we now add to the list of things that weren't in the Airbnb, were outside it. I'll quote from the Daily Mail. Again, same article, May 22nd, 2025. Josh Forshaw told the Spanish authorities that when he saw Mr. Slater on June 16, he seemed to be off his head on drugs. Mr. Slater sent him another image with mountains in the background, showing his top pulled up and two knives in his waistband. Mountains in the background. Well, if Jay were in the Airbnb kitchen, he's pulled open a kitchen drawer with the knives in there. He's pulled out two kitchen knives, Ophelia's two kitchen knives that she said weren't missing from the inventory when she checked it. Okay. He's put them down his waistband, and I imagined at that point he took the pic to show Josh Forshaw he was armed in case it kicks off. But if the Mail reporting is accurate, big if, but if the Mail reporting is accurate, then that's not what happened, because we have mountains in the background. So Jay pulls open the drawer, gets out these two kitchen knives, sticks them down his waistband, and then walks on over to the Airbnb door without doing himself a mischief, because he's got sharp pointy things pointing down to his groin area, right? Opens the Airbnb door, walks out a little bit further, turns round, so he's now got the mountains in the background, takes his pic for Josh with the knives down his waistband, sends the pic in case it kicks off, and then I guess he goes back inside the Airbnb. Puts the knives back, because no one reported seeing any knives on the kid when he left. There were no knives found on the dead body. Now, if that's all a bit of a joke, which it could be, I don't know, it's a pretty serious joke, though, when you think about it, in case it kicks off. I've got these knives here. Well, anyway, if that were a bit of a joke, so be it. Jay never did intend to fight anyone with knives. But it's still an oddity that he would have bothered to go outside the Airbnb to get mountains in the background to take that photo. If Jay were outside with mountains in the background and didn't go back inside the Airbnb to put the knives back, then that means he left from outside up the hill with the knives on him. And we get back to that situation where, but then the knives would have been reported missing when Ophelia checked all that. Again, not adding up. But I do think it's curious. For me, this is curious that we have yet another example of evidence of Jay being at the Airbnb, according to Josh Forshaw's testimony, evidence that Jay was at the Airbnb, but no evidence whatsoever that Jay was in the Airbnb. It is just curious that even that pick of kitchen knives is outside. It's outside, on the outside, on the outside. And then to wrap up this feature on Josh Forshaw, I do want to go back to how I just want to contrast how Adderley treats Forshaw and how Adderley treats the rest of the witnesses. Remember, inquest part one, only Josh Forshaw shows up. None of the others, Brad, Brandon, Lucy, Ayub, Rokas, none of them show up. But Josh does. Now, did Adderley make special mention to praise Josh for being the only one to show up? I don't recall that. I don't think any special words of praise came from Adderley. You would have thought he would have said something, even if it were a sarcastic, well, I'm glad one of the witnesses managed to show up. Thank you, Mr. Forshaw, for attending. That might have happened. I don't know. But it certainly wasn't reported. And instead, Judge Adderley tried to give Josh Forshaw a real roasting, as far as I can see. Because if you remember, Adderley did not like at all Josh Forshaw saying that 10 quid means £10,000. Adderley was like, well, why do you say that? How do you know that? And more than that, Adderley told Josh to go back during the lunch break and check that information. And Adderley's exact words were, as per the Mail, there would be serious consequences if he did not comply. In other words, during this break we're going to have, Josh Forshaw, you are going to verify somehow that 10 quid means £10,000. And if you don't, there would be serious consequences for not doing your homework. I don't remember such threats going out to anyone else in this inquest, part one or part two, about any serious consequences if the person didn't comply. Why is it only Josh Forshaw that is picked on here? Why is bully Adderley laying into the one witness that showed up when summoned? The only explanation I have is because Josh Forshaw is seen as the enemy. Whereas all the other witnesses that are going to say accident, 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 Josh Forshaw is the one out there saying, hey, there's drugs involved. You know, there's me splitting a pill for Brad and Jay. And there's Josh Forshaw saying, yeah, there's threats involved. Knives down the pants. So, yeah, bully Adderley's picking on Forshaw because he's the enemy. Adderley's well on board with all the accident crew witnesses. That's why he has nothing bad to say about them. But it's actually worse than that. Again, from the Mail, I didn't know about this. The coroner pressed Mr. Forshaw on whether it was true that Mr. Slater sent him an image showing knives in his waistband, reminding Josh, that he was under oath. Yeah. Now, whenever you're reminded by coroner or judge that you are under oath, it's basically a way of saying, I'm not sure you're telling the truth. I'm going to give you a second chance here, if you're lying, to correct it. Yeah. So there's no kind of charge of what is it when you're in court and you lie under perjury? Yeah. Reminding him that he was under oath. So Adderley's already basically telling Josh Forshaw, I doubt your word. I don't believe you. With how many other witnesses did we hear Adderley say that he reminded them that he was under oath? Was Ayub Abdul Qasim reminded at any point that he was under oath? No. Brad Hargreaves, was he reminded that he was under oath? Was Lucy May Gregory Law reminded that she was under oath? Was Stephen Rockas ever... Well, he didn't even show up. And neither did Brandon Hodgson. And, by the way, Inquest Part 2, when Lucy, Ayub and Brad do show up, where's Adderley's question about why they weren't there for Inquest Part 1? Adderley went on and on about how his officers of the court did this, the police did this, they're trying to contact them through email and phone numbers, and the witnesses didn't recognize who they were, stopped answering their phone, didn't reply to emails. Well, 2 months later, he's got 3 out of the 5 there, and he doesn't even mention that. Why not? I mean, if he's prepared to remind Josh Forster that Josh is under oath, and he threatens Josh that there will be consequences if you don't comply, to the one witness that did show up, where's the words of censure to those that skipped the first inquest? It's a bit like the teacher who doesn't even ask where the pupil was the day before, last week, last month. Just show up when you like. Okay. But it is a court. I just find that very strange. The one guy that did the right thing and showed up for Inquest Part 1, gave his testimony, was basically bullied by Adderley and dismissed, sent away. The ones that didn't show up, grudgingly, 3 out of 5, somehow managed to make some kind of appearance, either via video or, in Brad's case, in person. And, yeah, no warnings about telling the truth, about being under oath, nothing about, make sure you've got that right, and no questions about why they weren't there the first time round. As Katie Davis of The Sun reported, an absolute farce of an inquest. This man, Dr. Adderley, has so much to answer for, and in the fullness of time, I sincerely hope and believe he will be investigated. Because it doesn't make any sense. All right, let's leave it there. Hasta luego, adios, hasta la próxima. See you next time.